Today in the grain market, we see red across the board. The soybeans are lower with the September contract really having a big sell-off here, down almost 60 cents, a little over 60 cents today. Looks like everyone's rolling now into the November contract. Now we're at the end of the August doldrums, so there just wasn't any other news. The hurricane really having an impact, I think, on the market, and we expect to have the impact on the crops. We really have no way to assess it at this point right now, just knowing that export logistics are going to be impacted an awful lot there in the Delta area. So it's going to be a couple days before we can figure out what's actually happening with that. But the sell-off did get some momentum on the downside, and it basically overruled the fact that we did get some China buying today. So that's just something to look at. Now the CVOL is at 20.5%, the soybean oil is 31.9%, the meal is at 19%. Everything is off just a little bit lower. Just the November volatility is at 20%. So everything is kind of weakening somewhat right now. The options trade in the 1460s did have an uptick in it. So perhaps all isn't lost, that they're still looking ahead and hoping that maybe we're going to get a little bit more of a push before we finally settle into the harvest. It's something to kind of think about, that the managed funds are still long, commercials are still long, and the farmers still haven't really started to sell yet. So we've got that going on, but the U.S. dollar is still very strong, and I think that's possibly putting a lid on everything right now. Now, corn did fall pretty hard. The exports operations were impacted in the Delta, and I think that really started the dominoes to start to fall. The December was down over 15 cents. There really hasn't been much news outside of that. And dare I say that we start to look towards the September USDA report. It's possible that there isn't much else coming on. There's actually a little more grain news coming in this week. Perhaps that may move the needle. But one thing to think about is that the S&Ps made yet another new high. So the interest might be moving into that direction right now. And that's why we're not seeing as much activity here on the grain side. But the open interest is still highest on that 550 strike. And so even though the market has moved away from that on the corn, that still remains as, a magnet to move this market back. And with all that being said, we're back in the same channel that we've been in since mid-July. So that's, also something to look at. Now, wheat was really the strongest of all the grains, and yet today we were easier. It had a better start, but it just fizzled out completely. I think that the Russia export tax is an issue, but the corn and soybean sell-off by a lot of speculators, I think, had an overflow effect into the wheat market right now. So we're going to wait to find out what the fallout's going to be from the hurricane, and then start to look forward to the USDA report in September, and maybe start to talk real numbers, real yield numbers, where we are in harvest. Those are the things that perhaps might move the needle. Otherwise, we stay in the same channel until we can find something that actually will do the job.